Rock with your boys.
Can you play that riding dirty music through?
No, I cannot.
Yeah, you can't.
No. All right. So you're looking live at Generation to Generation Cowboys and Sports Talks. The host, DJ. I tell you what, I'm gonna be on the back in the background on this one, guys. I'm kind of chilling. But my co-host, my dad, is gonna recap with you all. So you want to take it away and let them know what you're gonna be talking about and get the recap going on.
Man, this is a late Saturday night. Got on kind of late. Gonna recap the draft. Kind of talk about what the Cowboys did. So anybody that want to tap in and chime in, we appreciate it. And you don't catch it live, you can catch it back on the replay tomorrow. We'll post it again tomorrow. So talk about this draft and how it all went down and kind of recap the good, the bad, and the ugly. It was some good things. It was some bad things, some ugly too. So we Cowboy fans, so we ride or die. So we're gonna be being a Cowboy fan is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So that's definitely what we looked at this weekend. So we'll talk about what happened. So you want to put up like the names of the people that we drafted. So obviously we're gonna start, with Tyler Booker. So we had him rated pretty highly, pretty much from the start when we started looking at the draft. And he was one of the guys I had put out a list of all of the guys that I would just be good with if we drafted in round one. He was definitely on the list. I think what we did find out is that the team, they really wanted Tetora McMillan, and that was the guy they were going to take if he had been there. And when he went off the board, they just kind of had to, regroup and just go with the board. So Booker, was the guy that they settled on, and excited about that pick. He's going to come in. He's going to be your day one starter at right guard, and I think he's going to do really well. Obviously he's a rookie, so you're going to have some situations where he's going to miss the call, things like that. But I think he's going to be dominant, and he's a guy that loves football. He's enthusiastic. You can tell somebody that's excited about being on the team. So look, he's gonna be good. There's just no doubt he's gonna come in now. Obviously, Zach Martin came in. He was an immediate Pro Bowler. We're not gonna put that kind of pressure on Booker, but he has the ability to come in and be an impact player, just like Tyler Smith was. Tyler Smith, he came in and he had some struggles his rookie year, but once he got back to his position, and I think Tyler Smith is a guard. There's going to be some talk about moving him to tackle. They need to keep him at guard. He's a guard, and but he was dominant, very physical. So I think Tyler Booker is going to be the exact same type of player. Now, our second draft pick, Donovan Azaraku, Boston College, the edge. Now, if you look at Tankathon, he was a guy that was highly rated. I think he was the 28th player on Tankathon. And he's been there the whole time. He's not someone that we talked about because we didn't really think he was going to be an option. But, he's a terrific player. I could actually see, mid-season him starting. And if he's not starting, he's going to be a factor in the defense. There's just no question about it. The concern I have with the pick is that, we've got Dante Fowler, got Micah, of course, and you got Neil and Sam. So this is a contract year for Sam, and he's going to need his snaps. And if he's not getting his snaps because it is his contract year, I mean, that could be a problem. And then Dante Fowler, that was his issue the first time he was here, and that was his issue with Washington. So, but the good thing is you can move Michael around, and Michael can rush from the middle and be quite effective. And so, our pass rush is going to be pretty good. So, and then we're going to talk about our defense later. The problem that we have with our defense is the middle, and I listened to a Big Time show. My new brother, he listened to his show earlier from this morning, and that was his point. He liked the draft just like everybody else. I like it as well, but there's just a couple of things in this draft that they could have done, and strangely enough, they just didn't. They didn't make it happen. They've had this happen a couple of years in a row where they have positions that they need to fill, and they just go through the draft, and for some strange reason, they just don't go to those positions. And defensive line is one. I mean, we talked about Alfred Collins all throughout this, pre-draft shows that we did. All the content creators, every content creator that I follow, that we follow, they had Alfred Collins, in there. If it wasn't Alfred Collins, it was Tyleek Williams, it was Sanders. There are multiple defensive tackles that we could have taken, and they didn't take it. We're gonna talk about that with our third round pick. But the edge is a good player. I think he's going to be a terrific player. It was a good pick. He was a 28th, ranked player. So to get him, where we did is, it was a good pick. Now, to me, this is where the draft kind of started going a sideways a little bit. Was in the third round when we took Siobhan Revelle. Now, he's a player that if he hadn't got hurt, he would have been a first round player, but he has a knee injury. And as we all know, Big Time talked about this too. What's interesting is a lot of people that cover the team, we've all had knee injuries. We've all had knee surgery. So we all know what that's like. And his knee surgery was recent. So Stephen Jones came out last night and said that he was going to start the season on the pup. So that's pretty significant for a third round pick, especially considering that Caleb Johnson, the running back from Iowa, was there. So Caleb Johnson should have been the pick there. I mean, he changes your entire running back room. He's a day one starter. He just comes in and he plays. I'm not going to say he would have been Zeke, but he's the type of running back that you can just immediately start in your lineup. Big physical back. It's not coming through?
Keep talking. Yeah, you're coming through.
Big physical back.
Mm-hmm.
And hold on 1 second. We kind of adjusting some things on the air. I think my audio might be messed up.
It's not messed up. It's just coming through my. It's just...
The light out for me. Yeah, it's just too bright. Okay, let me know when you get back if you can hear me good.
Okay, go ahead. Say something.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's perfect. Okay, you can keep going.
All right. Okay, but no, I was just saying that Caleb Johnson. I think most content creators, Cowboy fans, they would agree that was the pick there, and they didn't pull the trigger, and they drafted Siobhan Rivell, who, just be honest, he's probably not going to be ready to play when the season starts. And you got Diggs already coming from an injury. You could have just got Caleb Johnson right there. Of course, there were other backs you could have taken, probably not here, but this draft, it looks a lot different if you just take Caleb Johnson right there. It's just no question about it. All throughout Cowboy Nation, this draft turned on his head with this pick right here. So definitely pulling for Ravel Jr. Think he's going to be a good player long term, but when you're coming off an injury like that, just you having a confidence in your knee, being able to cut and turn in the NFL, that's a huge leap for a rookie. So I just think you just got to say he's not going to be ready to play, and he shouldn't be. He shouldn't rush himself back. We'll be lucky if Diggs is ready, and I don't think he will be either. So, we had some guys that stepped up last year. OA, I can't remember how to pronounce his name. If you give him an entire offseason in the training camp, he's a good corner, and you can get by with him. Now, Butler had the injury too, so it's gonna be, an uphill climb for him. Now, Kalen Carson is the guy that we drafted, and we might have to just kind of maybe one day this week we're gonna look at some of these drafts that we've had. The 23 and the 24 draft, it really put us behind the 8 ball with some of the guys that we took. And so, Kalen Carson, shout out to Foots the King, and he brought up something that I had kind of forgot about. Foots said they originally had Kalen Carson in mind for the slot. And so maybe in training camp, in preseason, if they just put Kalen Carson in the slot, and you might just see a different player, and then you can play one of the other guys on the boundary, and that might be the way to go. But yeah, I think the draft turned on this pick. Our next pick, we kind of got back on track with Jaden Blue. He was a player that obviously we're very familiar with, University of Texas, who we follow. And, he was one of the guys when we did mock drafts. Jaden Blue was one of the guys that we typically picked. Now, I don't know. He's not a feature back at this point, but he's somebody that you definitely going to have in the game as a change up. And then if I was the coach, he would be my third down back. He's just tremendous out of the backfield. Hard to cover. The screen game is going to be terrific. So great, a great pickup there with Jaden Blue. And he would have been a much better pickup if we had signed one of these other guys that we talked about that we missed. Okay, and then our next pick, again, kind of got off track again, I believe. One of the things that's frustrating about the Cowboys scouting department and coaches, you can build a good team through these late round picks. In every draft, it's good players. People will say, well, this draft is not really as good as year before. I never believe that. In every draft, all the way to the 7th round, it's good players there. You just got to pick them. And what we typically do over the years, we just get in the later rounds and we just do goofy stuff. Like today, we had extra picks. All we had to do was just sit there and just pick players, but they traded up and they took Shamar James, the linebacker from Florida. Just a very odd pick. You got to remember, you just signed Kenneth Murray. You got Van Horn, we got from the Bears. Overshawn is coming back. And the name escapes me at the moment. We got another linebacker. Well, so again, this is just an odd pick. You move up, you trade away picks to get this player. I don't see no scenario where he plays. He's not playing in front of Kenneth Murray and Van Horn. He's not playing, in front of. Oh, Leofau was the other linebacker. He's not playing in front of Leofau. Now, Leofau, you know, Eberflus is not one of his sponsors, so he's a new player for Eberflus. But all Van Horn and Murray are too. So this was just a very strange pick. And the other thing that's weird about this pick, when they moved up to take Shamar James, there were other running backs that were on the board, like Damian Hernandez. I believe DJ Giddings was still there. Ali Gordon was there. Just how do you not take those running backs and you move up and get this linebacker here? It's just very bizarre. But this is what the Cowboys do, the coaches and the scouting department. They just go Dr. Frankenstein with these picks. Instead of just letting the draft come to you and just take good players, they just go Dr. Frankenstein. They've done this so many times. And then the next guy is the offensive tackle from Oregon. To me, another odd pick. One of the things I want to talk about is throughout this draft, it seems like we had this idea that Shadi was going to be banging the table for players throughout this draft. He was going to be like really, just kind of, his presence was going to be felt. It seems like to me, just watching this draft, Shadi, they didn't get Shadi the players. Shadi's going to be calling plays for the first time. He's got to make a good impression. He's going to need weapons to do that. But just some of these guys they took, they didn't really help Shadi a lot. So it's like really disappointing. So this offensive tackle they took, you've got your tackles, you got Steele, you still developing Guyton. I believe Awesome Richards is a better left tackle than Guyton. I do. So this is another odd pick. And when they picked him, there were other running backs that were still there. They could have just took him. This draft looks a lot different if you just take a couple of the running backs that were there, and then we haven't even talked about receiver yet. At this point, you could have taken Tez Johnson. Now, some of the content creators and people that I follow, they didn't like Tez Johnson's size, but the reason I like Tez Johnson is because he's just different from some of the things that we have. He's more closer to Turpin, but Tez is just a different type of player than Tolbert, Mingo, Flournoy, and Brooks. We've already got that covered. So at the end of the day, to me, when you're building a football team, you just take good players, whatever shape and form and size they come in. And that's just a weird thing to me that they don't look at building a complete football team with just good players. They kind of have this prototype that they look for. If you look like Gallup, if you look like Tolbert, Mingo, Flournoy, and Brooks, they like you as a receiver. But that prototype of receiver, what has it gotten you? You haven't done anything with it. So they got to start getting some different guys. Now they signed a undrafted free agent. Is he down there on the list, Julian? No, he's not. He's not on there because he's a UDFA. But he's from Oregon, and what's his name? Well, we'll get it here in a minute. But he's intriguing. He's 6'2". He's not fast, but look, man, I just think we need to revamp our wide receiver room. So if you just told me tomorrow we were just clearing our receiver room out and just starting with, just whatever, I wouldn't have any complaints because the guys that we have, we've seen it. We've seen enough. We don't need to see Brooks. We don't need to see any more of Tolbert. I thought Flournoy had something, but Mingo counts with Flournoy out. So it's just bizarre. Now, this next player from UCLA, Toya, he's somebody that got a lot of good comments on Twitter, and he looks like the type of guy that we could use. He's a 3 technique. Looks like a physical player. somebody that might be able to come in and contribute. And that's the other thing is, as Big Time Show was talking about earlier today, we just skipped over defensive tackle, and we needed to sign Collins from Texas. We needed to sign a Tyleek Williams. And so this guy right here, he might be able to come in and do some of that. And he looks like a tough guy. So he's going to be your 3 technique. I'm sorry, he's a 1 technique, not a 3. But maybe Steven, they're gonna have to look at the players that haven't signed with other teams. People like Joseph. This June 1st, there are gonna be a lot of cuts across the league. They're gonna be busy with that June 1st market because they're gonna need some veteran defensive tackles, especially 1 techniques. And then, of course, talking about the receivers, they should sign Keenan Allen. They're not going to do it, but they should, especially after what happened with this draft. They should have Keenan Allen on the phone tonight trying to work something out with him. Maybe at this point his price has gone down, so they need to do it. Just get him in now and get him hooked up with Dak, and he will be a player that can make a difference. And he's a good locker room guy. He's a veteran. He can teach these guys some things. So, man, that would be just a smart move on their part. And they just so stubborn. They don't really do things like that. And then Phil Maffa, the running back from Clemson, I had actually seen him play, and I went back and watched some of his film. He's a nice back. I mean, he's somebody that can contribute. Now, again, you just throw him in the room with the other guys that we signed, the free agents, and I think Maffa has some injury issues too. So if he can just get on the field, he's got talent. Running backs, hate to say it, but it's just a lot of running backs that, they're just looking for an opportunity. And he's just, he's a nice back. And so, you put him in the room with Blue and with our other backs that we signed in the free agency period, you might have something to work with. But our running back room in this draft, we could have just redid our entire running back room, and they had the opportunity to do it, and they could have. And they went Dr. Frankenstein with these late round picks. And then the last player, the tackle, I didn't really get to even look at anything with him. So that's kind of what we did over the last 3 days. A lot of people are giving us A's, a lot of people giving us B's. I just think it could have been better. And where we are right now, we don't have the receiving room the way we need to have it. It's still, Dak, Shoddy, they're gonna be in a pinch. And a lot of people talk about injuries. Like, people will say, well, if Dak misses the season, our season is over. Well, that's why you build a football team. You should always have somebody that can play. What if Dak just springs a finger and he's out 4 games? You got to have a quarterback that can go 3-1 or 2-2. Well, with CD, we ain't gonna talk about CD getting injured, but what if CD just pulls a hamstring and he's out 3 games? What if he pulls a quad and he's out 3 games? You got to have some guys on that in that receiving room. It's gonna be able to step up and make plays. And when the kind of receivers we got, they're gonna be just getting squeezed at the line of scrimmage and not being able to get open with no separation. It's wide receiver by committee, and that's what the Cowboys do. It's like when they have things that happen that they should be able to just fix and move on. It's like they don't get it. The receiver by committee failed so bad, they should have just said to themselves, that with franchise, we ain't even touching this again. So over the years, they should have been getting receivers. They had a chance to get Xavier Worthy. They should have got Worthy. the last draft. Um, you know, they had a chance to get Sam Laporta. They should have just got him. So there were good players in this draft at the running back and receiver position, and it would not have taken a lot for them to get some of those players, but they just went Dr. Frankenstein in the late rounds, and so that's kind of Isaiah Bond. Have we heard anything about? I'm just watching the wire to see if he has signed with anyone, but they've already signed two unrestricted free agents. Undrafted free agents. So we just got to wait and see what happened. But he would have been one of the guys that I would have been calling right after the draft. We got to wait for that thing that happened with him to kind of, pan out and see what happens there. But I just think that it's got to be somebody at the start tonight saying, we got to do something at receiver. We got to call Keenan Allen. We got to check into the Isaiah Bond thing and just see, what we can do to try to pull something out. But I mean, overall, good draft. Like I said, we Cowboy fans, we gonna roll with the team. We gonna just keep it moving. I think that our first two picks that we got, they're gonna be really good. I think Jaden Blue is gonna be terrific in that role they're gonna put him in. He's a dynamic player. I mean, he's a baller. You get him out in space, he can do his thing. And then I got my eye on this defensive tackle from UCLA. I think he might be the one that surprised some people. And then Maffa, the running back, I like the player. I mean, I like his film. So we can, but Steven and Jerry, they made some comments that they still got a couple of moves they're trying to make, and they got to be looking at what they can do to try to add to what we did today, and see if we can just keep this thing. Because the thing that's crazy about this draft, all the players we've been mocking, Golden, Savion Williams, they both went to the Packers. We play the Packers, so we're gonna be playing the Packers. Golden and Savion Williams will be at AT&T. We see what the Eagles did. Tampa, I think they're gonna be a surprise team. They got Ibuka and Tez with Mike Evans. The 49ers got Alfred Collins. So a lot of our rivals, the players we've been talking about for 4 or 5 months in these mock drafts, we had the mock drafts. We had it right. All the players we did in the mocks, they went right where we had them. So myself, Henny Moore, Landlord, Boss, Jay Tuck, all of the content creators that's been doing mock drafts, these same players been going to the same spots. And so we had it right. Unfortunately for us, a lot of the players that we had mocked, the Cowboys, they literally just passed. They just didn't take them. They were there, but other teams did. They just, we passed up on Caleb Johnson. One pick later, the Steelers took him. And you're going to see Caleb Johnson for the Steelers. You're going to see him on Sundays just balling. And we could have had him here. So that's, but I think one of the things we got to talk about going forward as we look into, the season and the next offseason, when we start looking at these drafts, we just got to have like an honest conversation about the Cowboys' philosophy with building a team. They have this Frankenstein mentality where they're just, picking little parts that go here and there. And, if everybody's familiar with the story of Frankenstein's monster, he didn't work. He wasn't, it didn't work out good for him. So we got to stop doing that. We need to just, drafting is simple. Just keep it simple. Just take talented, good players. You know, it's a lot of debate about taking the best player available, taking a player of need. The truth is, it's really a little bit of both. But whatever you're doing, you just gotta just take good players and athletic players and players that ball, and just pull them and fit them into your team, and you can't go wrong when you start trying to be, you know, trying to outsmart the room, and you start doing like what they did on that late round picks with those what they traded up. There was no reason to do that. They could have just kept their picks, and the players would have just fell to them, and all they had to do was just reach up and grab them, but they didn't do that. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap. So that was our gen to gen recap of the 2025 draft. So we'll be back on later this week. And now we moving on to getting ready for the off season, getting ready for training camp. And then we're gonna just be talking about how the team is looking and how it's gonna be coming together over the next few weeks, and some other things we're gonna be doing with our channel. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap and log out. We're gonna call this one, and I'm gonna go check out some of the other content creators and see what they saying. Just kind of, hopefully we can figure out what's happening with Isaiah Bond, sneak him in.
Yeah, with Isaiah Bond, it's not looking good for him. I'm just researching his case, and from what I'm seeing in his case, it's really not looking good. He doesn't, I don't want to, judge the guy, but it doesn't look good, and it doesn't look like he is gonna be. It's a reason why he ain't been drafted or signed, and it's probably gonna stay like that.
So is it something that you think he can just, maybe later on in the summer and before the season starts, he can get resolved?
I don't know. I don't know.
Hopefully so.
I could put on here what it is.
Yeah, you don't have to. You don't want to put it on there.
Oh,
but
okay.
But yeah, hopefully he can get it all worked out. But what I would be doing if I'm Jerry and Steven, obviously, they can still be talking to his team and just say, hey, we here, and then they got everything all set up. They know how to do that. So
and to let you know how crazy this is, this incident happened while he was training for the combine in Frisco.
Yeah, I told your Uncle Eric that it happened in Frisco.
Yeah, but it happened in Frisco, but it happened like a week, like a week before the combine. It's just like it's just like you had one job, dude. You had one job, and it's like you had one job, dude.
Yeah, and so hopefully, like I said, if they smart, they would just get with his people. Get everything set up, even get everything, set up. And so whenever this thing drops, and hopefully for him, he can, pull through and get it all cleared up. So if that's, if it's in July, the first phone call he makes is to Dallas, and because he's
we're gonna come back on next week. We'll come back on next week and we'll look at Trayshawn. That's his name, the guy that they drafted.
I watched him tonight. You can check him out. You can watch him tonight.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. He all right. I think he's better than, even though he's like the Flournoy type and all of them, he's better than them.
Yeah, I think I'm familiar with him. I've watched Oregon a lot, and when I watch them play, it's kind of weird. It's kind of like Texas. When I watch Texas play, Bond and Golden came on late. So Bond was they number one receiver. But when I watched Oregon, now what's this kid's name again?
Trayshawn.
What's his last name?
Henderson, I believe.
But when I watched Oregon play, honestly, I couldn't really tell which one of the receivers was the better receiver. So I was just surprised when he wasn't, like one of the receivers that was going to be getting drafted. Because when I watched Oregon's game, he was making as many plays as Tez. And a lot of times, you would just get them confused. You wouldn't know which one was what. But, That's a running. Is that him?
Yeah, that's him. And he looked
Yeah.
like a running back. Mm-hmm.
So when I watched Oregon, there were just games when I just thought he was their number one receiver. So what's
Yeah, me too.
Ted's number?
I think Tez is number 11 right there. This guy is good. I don't know why he didn't get drafted.
Well, he ran a real slow 40. So
I guarantee you, he comes in here and he plays, he makes the team. He's better than, he going to be the guy that we're going to be trying to figure out why is Jalen Brooks playing and he's not.
I'm going to say it again. Okay. Tomorrow, they could release, there are players on our team, they could release them tomorrow. They could release Brooks. They didn't really give Flournoy when they played Flournoy in the preseason, he made plays.
Let me say something real quick before you wrap up. This guy's catch radius and his abilities and his attitude, how he a dog and how he just this highlight tape right here. Now highlights are highlights, but we've never seen Jalen Tolbert have a highlight tape like this. We've never seen Flournoy have a highlight tape like this. We've never seen them do any of these things that this dude is doing. We've never seen it.
When I watched Tolbert highlights when we drafted him, you know, I liked Tolbert before the draft. I think Tolbert had some of this.
Well, Tolbert, I need
to
highlight. Tolbert is solidified in my book. He's the third receiver on this team. But
I told you how many touchdowns did Tolbert score the last 2 years?
Just as many. Well, he scored the same amount as CD last year.
So Tolbert, to me, he's a third receiver. That's not an issue.
Nah, not at all.
So, you know, maybe this young man right here can come in and battle for that fourth spot and just battle for a spot on the team. Now, his receivers coach is here. But my whole point is, this is what we should have been doing with our draft. We need to just remake our running back and receiver room. Just redo it. We've done that with linebacker. We've done it with safety. It's time to remake the receiver room. It's time to remake the running back room. They could have did it in this draft. What's our two free agent running backs we signed? I can't even remember these guys' name. One of them was from Denver, and the other one is Sanders, right? Did I lose it?
I had to look him up.
I mean, my point is, we could have redid our entire running back room. And the thing about it is, you're gonna keep four backs. What they could have done was just have two rookies and the two veteran guys. That's redoing your room. Now Maffa, you know, you could have had Giddens, you could have had Damian Hernandez, you could have had Ollie Gordon.
Johnson could have had Caleb Johnson.
Could have had Caleb Johnson. In our receiver room,
if you did Caleb Johnson and Jaden Blue, you're good.
Yeah. In our receiver room, there were guys there. There were guys in the fifth round. Yeah, I saw this player here. Like I said, when I watched Oregon play, I thought he was a number one receiver. So
yeah, I don't know. I didn't think Tez was their number one receiver, but apparently he was.
Oh yeah, he was. But what hurt Tez was his combine. This I don't even know if this guy here was invited to the combine. It's weird how things kind of work. But some of the other receivers that we've watched in this draft, preparing for it, he's doing the same thing they're doing. I mean, it's, you know,
yeah, he's a dog. He's an
Jalen Royals, Noel, what was his name?
Jalen Noel.
Some of the receivers that we saw in this draft preparing for him, the linebacker they took in the 6th and 7th round, the offensive lineman they took in the 6th and 7th round, those should have been running backs or receivers. Just redo the room. And that's all. That's what they could have did. And your team would have been better.
Let's not forget that they traded up and just traded 2 picks for nothing.
Yeah, they could have kept their picks and just got different players. So they took a linebacker that's not going to see the field. They took a offensive lineman that will not see the field. When you could have just
took receivers and running backs right there that would absolutely see the field.
Well, they could have took Damian Hernandez.
Martinez.
Damian Martinez. They could have taken Ollie Gordon. They were there.
And I heard Damian Martinez is from this area.
He is.
That's insane.
He was one of the guys that they had talked about. Well, we had been talking about all of the content creators, like your guy Nix. All today, every round, he kept saying, we got to take, is it Martinez or Hernandez?
I think it's Damian Martinez.
That he kept saying, Martinez. And every round, they kept passing him. He was right there for the taking. And then he ended up going, where did he go?
We watched him. We watched him the other day when we did our running back thing, and we were just like, "Oh, look at this guy here. He's just like surprisingly good." He
got drafted in the 7th round. We thought he was gonna go in the 3rd or 4th round.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and he was just there. All they had to do was just take him.
It's like they were drafting for another team.
They weren't drafting for another team. This is just what they do. They just get into their Dr. Frankenstein mindset with these picks. And then the Dr. Frankenstein analogy, that's what they're doing when they keep drafting these guys that are hurt. You know, it's like Dr. Frankenstein is like, you drafted a guy that had a like catastrophic knee injury, Jalen Smith, and you're going to just put him back together like, that LVE had a hurt neck. Everybody told them before the draft, this player, he gonna probably play a good 2 or 3 years because he's got a bad neck.
I was listening to the fan the other day before on my way to class. I was listening to the fan, and Brian Brodley was like, they got the Cowboys doctor is the one doing Siobhan Rivera. I immediately rolled my eyes and said, "Oh, we're picking him, no question about it."
Now we knew they was gonna take the running back from Texas last year. That had
they got hurt. Mm-hmm.
And then he got hurt, and then he got hurt again.
Yeah. This is how they do things.
Yeah, and it's just an organization. We got to talk about the culture of the Cowboys. Everybody keeps talking about what's the Cowboys culture. The culture. Our culture is our front office. They just have a odd and weird way of building teams. They just do something that other teams don't do.
You mean to tell me that you have a 3rd round cornerback that had a catastrophic knee injury last year? You all of your cornerbacks are hurt right now. Trayvon is hurt. You got Butler got hurt. You got all these cornerbacks that are hurt. And instead of getting
Caleb
a starter,
Johnson.
Instead of getting a starter at a position of need that is like the most important position of need on your team, and you have a chance to get a 1st round guy, prime time, and you pass on him for a cornerback, they need their heads checked.
Yeah, but he was rated. He was a good player. He would have been a 1st round player. Look, nothing against the young man. He gonna be a good corner. It's just gonna be in 26 and 27. You know, because he's gonna come back from the injury.
But see, this is my thing, and it's starting to make sense to me on why this around the rim theory that he keeps talking about. Around the rim. We want to be around the rim. We've been around the rim for 30 years, and you know why we can't get the ball in the hoop is because they're always around the rim, and they don't have any weapons to get them over the rim.
Where I push back on that is we've been looking at this for 30 years with Jerry, the Jerry-isms. You know, they're around the rim. Steven has them draft and develop the pieces of the pie.
We like our guys.
What they're doing when you're not having success, you're gonna have crutches, and they use these crutch phrases. What's happening is when the Commanders make the NFC Championship game last year, Detroit made it the year before. What's happening with them year in and year out? They're running out of excuses on why they're not getting it done. So the fallback for them is these phrases. It's like what do they call it when you trying to throw somebody off over here because you got problems over here. I'm losing my train of thought.
A scapegoat or
It's
distraction.
not a distraction. It's a. But anyway, what they do is, and then what happens is when Jerry says these things, people take him for literally for what he's saying. He's not telling you that they're not planning to win this year. He's not telling you that they don't really care about this year. He's just trying to give you something that's gonna cover for them not getting it done. That's what they're doing. So they're not saying that we're gonna just take this year and not try to win. That's not what's happening here. It's always the phrase is the monikers that they use. It's a cover up for what it's just showing their they're not getting it done. That's what's happening.
What I want to say is I want to say this, and we can
the word might have been diversion.
Yeah, a diversion. So like I want to say this, and like this is what we need to. What I want to start saying. I want to start saying, Jerry and Steven, y'all all smiling and all happy. Why are y'all so happy? Y'all haven't won in 30 years. Why are y'all so happy?
It's a diversion.
That's what I want to ask them. Why are y'all so happy? Y'all haven't won in 30 years and y'all haven't changed anything. You guys keep doing the same old thing. Why are you all so happy? What is there so? What are you guys so happy about?
But like, what do you expect them to do?
Be mad, like normal people. You're supposed to try to be upset and say we're trying to win this. We're giving it all we got. You guys are happy like you won a Super Bowl last year.
No, that ain't happening.
They happy. You would think that they are the Kansas City Chiefs front office the way they act. They act like they the Eagles. They act like they Howie them. You know, Howie, he just be so full of energy, walking around happy, bubbly. They be acting like that, like they just did something great.
Yeah, because that's what they do to just cover up the lack of success. That's kind of what they do. That was Jason Garrett's style. Jason Garrett was always like, "Let's go, guys. What else you got?" And the coaches that they've had, that have won, that have had success, that wasn't their mentality.
And then again, this is why it'd be hard for me. I mean, it'd be hard for me because I understand that this Cowboys team, the way it's built year in and year out, they're good enough to make it to the playoffs, to the end of the season. But then when it gets time to play against like primetime teams, they get beat by Green Bay. And you know who beats them from Green Bay? Savion Williams and Golden.
Well, what beats them, the reason the Cowboys keep losing is because what's happening is they're not taking guys that have success in college, making plays, balling, getting it done, just, guys with, flair and the pizzazz, and that's what they're missing. They don't
Zeke, Dez, Dak, CD.
Yeah, they don't continuously add guys to their team with that type of attitude and behavior. And you can do it, and you got to be able to. The thing that they miss is they want to just build an offensive line and take their hands off. They want to just, this part of the team over here, they want to concentrate on that. And then once they do that, they think everything else doesn't matter. They literally will build a team that has no linebackers. For years, they built a team. They didn't really have safeties. Last couple of years, they just saying to themselves, we're going to build a football team. We don't really need running backs. And that's the part when you talk about when you get in the playoffs and they get in the crunch time, you just got to have a good team from front to back. You can't have areas of your team that you didn't really try to get the best players. That's where they're going wrong.
And what really makes me mad is it's just like the whole entire off season, everybody from every network has been saying the same thing. The Cowboys need somebody to help CD. The Cowboys need a running back in this draft. Mm-hmm. Everyone has said that, and they just absolutely. It's kind of like they knew that, and they went against that on purpose to show people that like we're not doing what you all say.
What they are being themselves. They have done this many times over the years. Like I said, they have over the years. They put teams together where they didn't really care who they had at linebacker. They had a Hurt, LVE, and Damone Clark, and they were like, "We can win with this." We was like, "No, you cannot. You're gonna get smoked."
And in the playoffs, you got these guys out here, and they running the ball up and down the field. We're the whole year. We could never stop the run.
And keep in mind, they had 3 different shots at Bobby Wagner, and they said, "No, we're not interested," because they didn't really care about the position. And then last year, they literally just said, "We don't really need running backs. We can win. We can." And they found out, no, you're wrong.
Then the Commanders signed. Then Dan Quinn signs Bobby Wagner, and all of a sudden they go to the NFC Championship.
Yeah, and you got to remember too, 2016, 2017, they said, "You know what? We're gonna do receiver by committee. We don't really need playmakers and big time receivers. We got these guys over here. We gonna roll with it."
Stephen Jones said yesterday. He said that if Mingo and Tober don't step up, they're gonna make a move. So he's fully intent on starting the season with those guys as number 2 and number 3.
And they didn't learn their lesson from the receiver by committee year. They don't make those adjustments. And they not even learning from last year when they had the running back room that we had. They brought in Zeke. They didn't use him correctly. He wasn't the same. They really didn't even want to use Rico. They just said, "Oh, let's just play Rico and just look." Rico got 1,000 yards. They didn't even really want to play Rico. Rico would have got 1,400 yards easily. But it wasn't important for them to just do what they had to do.
That position is just wasn't important to them. They just don't.
It's gonna come back around. They're gonna get it fixed. They're gonna get the room. They're gonna get the running back room fixed. They're gonna get the receiver room fixed. But it could have been fixed already. They're gonna do it. It'll be 27. They'll be like, "Man, our receiving room has come a long way, and we got the." Well, no, fam. There was no reason for you to go all this time with your receiver room like this.
It's because like they want to take the shine away from CD or something.
No, they don't. That's not what they think. They just think in their mind that the receiving room is okay, and it's not really that important to make it better. That's just the philosophy of an organization. So people need to quit making excuses for them with the kind of stuff that they're doing. This is what they do. But everybody should know by now how this team operates. The Eagles, the 49ers, the Chiefs, they build an entire team. They look at every area of their team, the running backs, the receivers, the corners, the linebackers. And they say, we're going to try to get the best players at these positions we can get.
And what we finding out also, and what we've been knowing, but we finding out is being bolded right now. It's just like you can change the coach out. You can change the defensive line coach out. You can change the defensive coordinator out. You can change all that out. But if you got the same Will, McClay, Steven, and Jerry running your front office and the philosophies, you're going to have the same outcome.
I just knew Shadi, after taking over this job, he was going to make sure he got the running backs and the receiver thing squared away. And I still think their tight end room is not good either. They got Ferguson. A lot of people are down on Ferguson. I'm not necessarily down on him, but the people that's down on Ferguson, we ain't got the tight ends behind him. They're average to below average. They're Brevin Spann-Ford is okay. And I say this. If you told me tomorrow that I got to play a game with Brevin Spann-Ford or Schoon, I would take Brevin Spann-Ford or Schoon. Over Schoon. But that just goes to show you that we're not there. So it's just areas of this team that they need to upgrade the room, and they've had chances to do that, and they're not taking advantage of it. We can go ahead and wrap. Are you
all
out?
Right, yeah. All right, y'all. Well, y'all, we appreciate everybody for coming out with us tonight. So we'll log on one day this week and kind of get into it, whatever we're hearing, and we'll keep everyone updated. So draft is over. So now we got to get ready for the season and get ready for the off season and training camp. And we got to get Micah signed. And so now we in that next phase. We almost 100 days away from the season, so we
And
finna
then
ramp
we
up.
got, and then we gonna whatever team we got, we gonna just show up and we gonna ball. We ain't,
Yeah, we
we
going
Cowboy fans, so we gonna back our team. We gonna be excited about the season. And like some people said today, it ain't over yet. We still got a chance to add some more players and figure this thing out.
Yeah, we
So,
do. So we'll see what y'all can get done. So we appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good night, and we'll see y'all on